Today I'll be showing you how to change the rear pads and rotors on a 2007 Honda Civic Si. Now this is for both 2 and 4 doors. The model year range is going to be 2006 to 2011. First thing we're going to do is we're going to put the car in gear. So here I put it in reverse. Do not set the parking brake. Then you will chock the front wheels, so on both sides. And the way I do this is, since I'll be pushing back the pistons, you're gonna have to open the master cylinder, the reservoir, because some of the fluids will be coming out. So as you can see here, it's already chocked. The car's been lifted up, and make sure you use the jack stands. So what we'll do here is we'll just spray some brake cleaner here just to clean some of the parts. Now while the brake is drying up from that brake cleaner there, what we're going to do is we're going to use some penetrating oil here just to break loose some of this this screw here. There's going to be 2 of them. Now you don't have to spray that one, but I just like to do that because we're going to have to unscrew those 2 pieces later on. So what we'll be doing now is we'll be disconnecting the brake cable, which is this line right here, and we will be disconnecting this well, this is probably a 10 millimeter right here, 10 or 12 right there. So here is the brake cable. I got disconnected here. That was a 12 millimeter, so I took that apart. So now is we will be taking this bolt right here out, and okay, so now that you've unbolted this brake cable and this brake line here out also, just because we're gonna need a little bit more slack on this line. Now what we're gonna do is we'll just take these 2 bolts here, one here and one here. This might be a 10. Now to loosen these 2 bolts here, the one on top and bottom, you may need a 17 millimeter to hold this right here down, because if you're trying to loosen it, what will happen is that it will just keep on spinning and then you'll never loosen it. So you just need a socket on that side and then the wrench on the other. Now we just pulled the brake caliper out. It's being hung on with a bungee right here, so we're not going to let it hang with the brake cable. There's going to be 2 bolts here. Let me see if I can point this one out to you. It's going to be these 2 right here. Oh, not sure if you can see that. See, it's this one right here, and then this one right here. I'll get you the size of it in just a second. Now they are 2 14 millimeters. So right there is one, and then there's going to be one down here, back here. So what it is, it's holding this piece right here. So we're going to take those 2 pieces off. Now this is what it looked like before, and then when we took out those 2 bolts, it should be right just like this. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take out the rotors here. So now we're going to have to unscrew this. most likely it's going to be rusted, so that's why I use the penetrating oil here. What you're going to do is you're going to have to unscrew both these. What I use is one of these, which is an impact screwdriver. So what it does is it loosens the screw by you hitting the hammer on the back of it. Now if you can't take it out, you might have to end up drilling it out. So I'm going to try to take it out using the impact screwdriver. Now it works most of the time, but not always, and then I might have to end up drilling it. So as you can see here, I had to end up drilling the screws out. So hopefully you have better luck than me, because like each time I do the Honda brake rotors, well, I always end up drilling at least one. This time I had to drill 2 screws out. Well, now that we drill those out, you should be able to take the rotors right out. So now the rotor's off, and what we'll do here is I'll probably just clean some of the dust off, spray with some brake cleaner, and probably get like a wire brush and clean any rust piece off. So just get your brake spark cleaner and spray some of those pieces off there. You don't have to really spray that much. And then get some sort of a wire brush. Normally I'll just like brush off here, all around this area. This is the mating surfaces right there. Any rust piece, and just clean it up. Now, this one doesn't have that much rust, so you want to clean around like any area, but I didn't spend too much time. I just like brushed off some. But if you have a lot of rust, make sure to clean it off. So now what we'll do is we'll put on the new rotors. So now when you got the new rotors in, there's going to be these little slots again for it to hold the rotors in place. It's up to you if you want to put some new ones in or if you don't want to put them in, but what it does is just hold this in. But since Honda got it, since they made it, I guess I'm going to put some new ones in. So just make sure these little holes, there's going to be 2 of them. And what you want to do here is I would put some sort of anti-seizing grease or some brake grease on these threads, so the next time you take it off, you know, you're not going to struggle with them like what I did here, where I had to drill it out. So we'll just put these 2 screws in with a little some sort of anti-seizing grease on this thread here. So these are one of the brake and caliper grease here. What I did was I just put it on the threads here, the screw, and I just put them back on. Again, it's up to you if you want to put these screws back on, because all they're doing is just holding the rotors in place. If you don't put it on, it'll still probably be okay, but just be careful when you put everything back together, because it's not holding the rotors in place. But again, I'm using it because you know, Honda made it and they suggest us using it, so of course to me it doesn't really matter if I drill it or not. So you know, if you drilled it out and you don't have the screws, you know, it's probably fine without it, but that's up to you. And just a little side note, if you're wondering what this little screw right here is for, it's if your rotor's stuck and you can't pull it out, what you do is you put a bolt in there and you spin it, and then it will push the rotor out. Just a little side note. Okay, so now we've got the rotors on. What you're gonna do, this is very important. You're gonna use brake cleaner. You're gonna spray the rotor, just because they have some coatings. This anti-rusting coating that's on it. What you want to do is you want to spray that off. So spray it off, wipe it clean. Not just this side, not just the front side, but you want to spray just the back side also. You want to just clean it, wipe it dry. Now what we'll do is we'll replace some of the hardware. So as you can remember, this piece right here, it was up there just like that. And we're going to replace these hardware parts right here. If you buy the premium pads, they should come with these little replacement pieces. If you don't have it, I guess it's okay, but it is recommended that you should replace those anytime you do the brake pads. So we'll just replace those, and we're going to grease some of those. Now this piece, all it does is you just pry it up, and then that's it. Now you want to check right here to see if there's any rust pieces where my thumb is, right here. Let me see if I can point it with my finger instead. That looks weird. Where my finger is, right here. If there's rust, of course, you know, get a wire brush, clean it. It's optional. You could put the anti-seize, the brake grease. I mean, you can put the brake greased, or what I have here is a silicone paste. It's up to you if you want to put it on there. Now what we're going to do here, as you can see, I already put the grease on these hardware here. I guess I just put both in between the this bracket here and the new hardware. Now what we're going to do is we're going to clean the guide pins. These are the guide pins. What you're going to do is you'll just push this rubber boot back and then lift it up. It should come up like that. So all you have to do is you're going to take it out, and then you're going to clean it off with a clean rag, and then you will just put on some silicone paste. Okay, so now this is what the silicone is like. It's just a clear paste. Put a little too much there, but whatever. You can put it back in. Don't put too much paste. This might be a little too much, but I think it's probably okay. But you're just gonna push it back down. Make sure there's no air bubble. So normally what I do is I kind of like twist it. As you can see here, I did put a little too much, but it'll just come off the side. I'll clean it off. You don't want to put too much, because if you put it too much, your brake might just hold, I guess. But there you go. I cleaned it a little bit. Make sure there's no air in between there. And as you can see there's a little air. So what it does is it pushes the guide pins out, which in turn squeezes your brake. So make sure there's no air in there. What you do is try to like peel it down a little bit, let the air come loose. But a little bit hard for me to do one hand, so I'll show you how to do that. And by just like peeling back the boot a little bit, and then that will release the air. Now here's a little tip also. When you're pushing the guide pins in to get some of the air down, normally I push the boot down and try to get all the air out as much as possible, and then I push the whole guide pin all the way down. That usually gets most of the air out. So what you're going to do is you grease both these guide pins. You want to check to see if the boot's ripped. If it is ripped, replace it. If for some reason you took out both those guide pins at the same time and you don't know which goes where, the bottom guide pins is not 100% round. If you see here, there's there's 3 of them. See right there, it's flat. So that one goes on the bottom like this. So by bottom, this is what I mean. It's on the bottom guide pin. Okay, now those 2 bolts already tightened back there. As you can see, I got a little grease on the rotor. So just make sure to clean it up. Use the brake parts cleaner, spray and clean that part off, and then we'll put the brake pads in. Actually, before we do that, what we're going to do here is we are going to spin the pistons back in. Do not push. You're gonna spin and push at the same time. So you're gonna spin this clockwise, and then it's gonna go into the caliper. So what we'll do here is we'll spin this piston in. You notice there is, it looks like it's a plus. So there is a tool here, especially made for that. I'll put the parts number on the screen. But what I do here, it links, it goes with the ratchet, and then you're just gonna spin it clockwise, and then push it all the way in. Just remember where the orientation of that little plus sign is. It's if you lift it up like that, it's about it's almost 90 degrees. I'm sorry, it goes up and down, left and right. So because that little groove will fit this little tab here on the brake pad, because if you don't align that incorrectly, it's going to be off. Okay. Okay, as you can see here, I spun it and it's all the way in, and the orientation is just like that, where it goes left and right and up and down. So now what we'll do is I'll just grease these little parts right here, this little area right here. That one's gonna be up to you. You know, if you want to grease that or not. Before we forget, there's this other spring. This, what it does is it pushes the brake pad against this, what do you call it? It pushes against this. So we'll just replace that since they gave us the new piece. All it does is it's in here. So we just took it apart, just like that, and then we'll put it back in. Okay, so this is what it should look like now. You see there's the one with the little tab right here. Let's see if we can see that. That piece is inside and it's facing downward. And what we'll do is now we'll just put the caliper back on and bolt it. Now to tighten the these two bolts, the one that's down here and up here, you're probably going to need a wrench just to hold that piece there. Just like that. And then you can just tighten it without it just keep on spinning indefinitely. Now we will just tighten the bolts back. That one right there for the brake, for the parking brake, and this one right here, and the one for the actual brake line right here. So there's going to be 3 of it. We'll just tighten it back. Okay, so now that everything's back together, you'll put the wheel back on, and you're going to be working on the other side. So you want to do brakes on both sides. And then after you're done with the brakes, of course, don't forget to close this the reservoir here. Close it, and then you're gonna pump the brakes probably 5-10 times before you start driving the car. So don't forget, pump on the brake 5 to 10 times before you drive the car.